Had a little bit of extra time, so I figured I'd do another Reddit review session here, and I think I picked three pretty good topics here. They spread the gambit, and I think they apply to a lot of people out there. So we'll get right into number one. The background is a 24-year-old fiancé just found out that they are 5 weeks pregnant, which is pretty crazy life change to go through, especially something you're learning about. They did want kids, so it's not too crazy, but this is a little bit sooner than they had originally planned. Their finances are actually in a pretty good place. Fiance makes $100K and the poster makes around $90K for a total of $190 as a household income. They inherited a fully paid off house, which is absolutely amazing. They are set up for amazing success here. They do live in a high cost of living area, which will make some of those initial baby costs more, especially as you look at daycare and school costs if you're doing private school. But those are all things that can be planned for. He does say that the house is going to need some updates. Very common for home ownership to have to keep up on updates, and things are always breaking. And that they have been spending a little bit frivolously as well. Honestly, the post seems very concerned, and I think a lot of that is probably just new emotions and uncertainties about how things are going to change. But realistically, they're in such an amazing position. They make great money. They have tons of room to save up money and prepare for this change, and they've got a paid off house. So their living expenses can be dropped very, very low if they need to. And I think realistically, what these two just need to plan for is this drastic life change. It's something that they had been wanting, so I think that they're already in the right direction. Now it's just really coming to the realistic and realism that this is happening. So what can we do about it? Well, the first thing, at least on the finance side, is just going to be stopping any of that frivolous spending and saving as much as you can. Stockpile cash here. When we look at saving money and investing money and using it for the future, the rule of thumb is if you're going to need something in less than 3 to 5 years, it really shouldn't go into the stock market. It's too volatile. It can go up and down. And if they're going to need this money, especially when they have a baby in a few weeks, months, they're going to want that as cash, and they're going to want to know how much they have. So keeping that in a savings account is going to be the best play there. Of course, like anything, just planning for these changes, looking at what medical expenses are going to be, look at the baby safe changes they're going to need to make to a house. Maybe you postpone some of the nicety upgrades and look at what you're going to have to do to baby proof it. You're going to need gates or closing down some of the cabinets, putting away glassware, rounding off corners and safety things like that, outlets. Those things can be done for fairly cheap, and especially as like a DIYer, you can buy most of that from like a local hardware store and do it very cheaply. This is also a great opportunity to look at the emergency fund and to have money saved away for unknown expenses. There are going to be lots of changes, and we're not going to be able to plan for everything. You hope everything goes smoothly, but there could be additional medical expenses. And of course, just babies in general are going to go through lots of dispensable items, but also they're going to be growing out of clothes like crazy. There's going to be car seats and strollers, and especially as those things get newer and safer as well, they just get more expensive too. So you're going to want to stockpile cash. It can kind of be a blended emergency fund because realistically, some of that is going to be used in the near term. But that's okay. You can plan for it, you can save for it, and honestly, you're in a great direction. Moving on to the second one here, we're looking at a 26-year-old UK female who just happened to buy her first property. And that's absolutely amazing as well. 26 is definitely ahead of the curve on purchasing your first home. But with that comes a lot more expenses that now fall onto you and responsibility as well. The purchase did drain the emergency fund pretty much all the way out. So that's going to be something we want to build up pretty quickly as much as we can. One thing a lot of homeowners find out is that cash flow becomes very difficult, especially with today's interest rates. Mortgages are just going to start depleting what you bring in on a monthly basis. So you got to be really careful and plan for those expenses. The current emergency fund target is around 21,000 pounds. That's about 12 months of expenses, and definitely on the high side. If somebody wants to be very conservative or they have a fluctuating income, maybe that's more plausible, but realistically, I think 3 to 6 months is probably going to be a better gap to fill, and you won't be having as much cash sitting on the sideline. For other things, current saving rate's around £400 a month, which is pretty solid. You can do quite a bit with that as well. Might be ways to increase that. The second question, though, really is whether or not to pay more on the mortgage or to start investing. And this does come down to a little bit about personality and personal choice. But being so young at 26, you have so much growth potential in any investments you can start now that's going to be an amazing opportunity. It's hard because if you are paying debt on one hand and then making interest on the other, they do offset themselves a little bit. But utilizing the opportunity that you have, that you can weather out any ups and downs from the stock market, using past performance and just being conservative, I think you'll be able to do a lot better for your returns, and the compounding interest will pay off hugely in the next 20 to 30 to 40 years, which is going to be absolutely amazing. The other thing to keep in mind too is that a mortgage is a long-term play. It's something that you can pay on steadily over the term, which for this one's going to be 30 years. So you've got plenty of time to work on it. And honestly, I would just work on paying it down. There's no reason to go too aggressive with it. Utilize the time you have now to get that compounding interest in the stock market. And I think you'll be really happy with where you come out in 20 to 30 years. The last part of the question is whether or not you start dropping off some of your personal activities, especially like the gym or guitar lessons. Realistically, I would say no. That may not be the typical answer. Some people say to cut everything back, but I think that there is a happy balance to be made between saving too much and also not living your life. And especially in your 20s right now, there's so many cool opportunities and things that you can experience that you won't have the time or the capability in the future. And so I would see this as a long-term thing, and you're already doing it really well by thinking about investing and already getting into a house, which is absolutely amazing. So I wouldn't push it too far and give up those life experiences that you won't be able to get back in the future. So figure out which things are actually going to bring you joy and which things you want to invest and put your money into. Maybe there are some frivolous things that you can cut back on that you're not utilizing, and then absolutely enjoy the things that you do want to spend your money on. This final question is actually one that comes up quite a bit, and it's the logistics for utilizing a 401k through your employer. Their employer uses Fidelity, which is absolutely a great platform. Have no connection with them, but they have a really good system, and they're a big institution as well. So they support almost any investment you want to make. They have been contributing to their employer's full match, which is the absolute first thing you should look into. If your employer offers any type of a percentage match, that's basically 100% returns on the money that you put in, and you're never going to get anything near that, especially guaranteed. So if you put in 5% and they match 5%, you've already doubled your money right off the bat, which is absolutely amazing. So I'm glad to see that they're already doing that. They don't know whether or not they're contributing and investing should be two separate steps. Realistically, it's going to be how much you want to put in. A lot of people target 10 to 15% of their income to be invested. It doesn't need to all be through your employer 401k. You can open up those accounts outside and open up an IRA by yourself, but a 401k is absolutely a good place, especially with Fidelity. You'll have a lot of options there. In terms of how to invest, the one thing that is a catch that some people don't understand is that putting money into an account does not guarantee that the money is actually invested. And so when you deposit money into an investment account, it will actually sit there as cash, just in like a normal, I will call it a rough savings account, but realistically, you're not going to be making any interest rate. So it's on you to go in there and actually invest the money, which is the absolute critical part. You don't want to find out 5 or 10 years down the line that you've been putting money into something and it hasn't been growing. So it doesn't need to be often, but it is a good idea to go in and check and just make sure that the automatic deposits are going into some type of a fund. A lot of people find ease in ETFs or large scale mutual funds. The S&P 500 is an absolute great one. There's some other Vanguard funds that can give broad indexing that are super easy, super low cost, and realistically, they're set and forget. Obviously, you should do your own research into this, and not financial advice, but Some of the big ticker symbols that people use are VT. FXAIX for Fidelity is a great S&P 500. VTI, VOO. Those are all absolutely amazing funds, and realistically, you can't go wrong with them. They're simple. They don't cost almost anything in terms of fees, and you can put your money in there and let it grow. The one thing that the user does point out is that they found out that they were actually automatically enrolled into a target date fund, which is really phenomenal. I've heard a lot of employers going to this, which is just defaulting new employees into the target date fund so they don't run into this issue of depositing money into an account without it actually growing. And target date funds are awesome. If you ever heard of having to rebalance an investment account, or if your percentages are not diversified anymore, the target date fund will do all of this for you. And what it does is you pick the day you want to retire or the year you want to retire, 2065 or whatever, and that's the target date fund you buy. And then as you're younger, it's going to be more aggressive because you don't need that money now. And as you get closer to retirement, it's going to redistribute that money into safer and safer investments, probably more bonds, more ETFs rather than higher risk tech stocks. And the best part is that it's going to be really low cost as well. And it's going to auto rebalance for you, which is kind of a best of both worlds. Some people do want to be a little bit more aggressive and position the percentages themselves, which is a valid strategy as well. You just have to realize that as you get closer to your retirement, it's going to be on you to rebalance those positions and to adjust how much risk you want to have when you get closer to actually needing that money. So all of these three posts are great representations of people being in the right place with their finances. The first one, having unexpected expenses and a baby, which is a phenomenal thing and a fun life event to go through. Now it's just getting set up for it. Setting aside as much cash as possible for those unknown expenses, and then working through it once the baby actually comes. And then, of course, that second post is going to be just getting into a new house, figuring out expenses, building back up that emergency fund, and just being smart now with limited cash flow is going to be the most critical piece to all of this. Having that emergency fund is really going to save you when you have unexpected expenses, especially as a homeowner. Things are going to break, and you're going to want to be able to pay cash for that and not put them on a credit card that you're going to have to work to pay off later, doubling down on your limited cash flow. So doing great things, just build up that emergency fund and be smart with your cash flow as you have it. And then, of course, the third one, looking long-term with investing, making sure that you're maximizing that 401k match through an employer is critical, and then finding out what it's actually invested in. If it starts out as a target date fund, you can set and forget it. If you want to reposition that into your own percentages, you can absolutely do that as well. Just making sure it's actually in the market and getting utilized is the critical piece here. So with all three of these situations, we actually have a platform that can help you out for all of it. It's called SimpleFinances.co. You can set your goals, as in post one. They can say they want to set up savings goals for an upcoming baby, and then you can track your incomes and expenses and put money aside, and you can see how close you are to those goals. It's a great way to simplify all the things that you're doing into one easy actionable item. In terms of number two, now you have a new house. So monitoring what expenses you have going out is going to be the best way to maximize your cash flow. Having a limited amount coming in, the more you can do to eliminate unwanted expenses going out is going to be the best way to set yourself up for success, especially if you have any uncertain expenses with the new house. And then third person, just the investing. You can sync all of your accounts and they'll pull in your net worths, they'll pull in your transactions, and will give you easy insights with a full account review. So you can take all the things you're doing and boil them down to a few actionable items, and it'll tell you how well you're doing with an actual grade score, which is super easy. Are you an A, B, C? Is there a lot of changes you need to make? Are there lots of recurring expenses you cut back on? All those things are called out very easily for you, and they're right on your dashboard. So give the platform a check out at SimpleFinances.co.